Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Latiffe Ghanem. She is a certified trauma-informed life and parenting coach, and she helps parents navigate escalating power struggles and lead with calm confidence through her signature breaking the power struggle. And so we will explore with her why one loses it on the people you love most, why high achieving women struggle the most at home, and how to stop reacting on autopilot, and what to do when guilt and overwhelm take over. Welcome to the show, Latiffe. Were you able to? Yes, Latiffe, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. How are you?
Very good, very good. Welcome to the show, Latiffe.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about breaking power struggles. We'll talk about parenting and much more. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Sure thing. So I have a background in corporate communications. I spent about 15 years working in communications and really advising everyone from like high powered C-suite executives to, brands and multinational companies and how to develop engaging conversations and engaging brands. And as I was starting a parenting journey for myself, I was seeking outside help, but then I realized that a lot of the reactions that I saw, like in boardrooms, were showing up in dining rooms, and that really dove me into exploring everything about the parenting. And I studied under Dr. Shafali Sabari, who's pretty well known in India. And I took her course in life and conscious parenting. And now my mission today is really helping moms overcome escalating power struggles with their kids and lead with connection. And that is really the core of my mission and the core of my work today.
Absolutely, absolutely, Latife. So it's a different sort of a power struggle between your children or child and you. And it can be funny, it can be amusing, but it is also serious. Why do you call it power struggle? Who wants what?
Who wants what? Everybody wants to win. That's the problem. We think that we are we're on two different sides of the coin, right? Your child is saying one thing, you're saying another, and you believe that you are in the right because you're the parent and they should listen to you, and you see their behavior as defiance or as bad or as a rebellious, and then that triggers a reaction in you. So I think that's why I call it a power struggle, because instead of seeing it for what it is, we're seeing it as somebody has to come out the winner and another one has to come out the loser.
Absolutely. But children are children, and grown-ups are supposed to use their, power of wisdom, power of experience, power of being in that moment, understand your child better, and then
Yes.
react. Why does it happen that you lose your cool and the child also themselves in a different way responding to that?
So it's a little bit of everything. It's neurobiological. So we see it also when we see defiance in our kids, we go into flight or flight response. And that response allows us to automatically fear the reaction of our kid, and we react on autopilot. We don't even have time, like our brain doesn't have time to process it. So it's almost like we are reacting to our kid yelling or being defiant or not putting on his shoes the same way we would react in the old days to our lion coming chasing after us. So we are bringing out the roaring lion in us, and suddenly after the reaction, you're like, wait, why did I react that way? And that's what spirals into the guilt and the shame, because we're not really thinking it as behavior, or sometimes even as developmentally sane. It's just sometimes kids need to push back and need to talk back because they are also developing their own voice, their own empowerment, their own sense of agency. And instead of seeing it that way, we're seeing it as defiance. We're seeing the behavior as disruptive, as disrespectful. And then we react from that place of fear instead of really processing the information from that behavior.
Right, Latifeh. So when does it actually become a problem? And when do you come into the picture? Otherwise, it's a very good, children-parent relationship.
Exactly. It becomes a problem when we, as moms and as dads, when we spiral into guilt and shame, when we realize that we're not showing up as our best selves and really showing up as someone that we don't want to be, and that we are generating a disconnection in the relationship with our children. So instead of our children being safe and comfortable coming to us with questions or with situations, like, oh mommy, I don't know, I cheated today in school, and instead of saying, being curious about it or asking questions, immediately going into that domineering, like yelling or scolding, authoritative. And then we go into the spiral of feeling shameful or feeling sad or being like, why did I react this way? Why did I promise myself I wasn't going to do this? And that's when I really help parents really uncover what what is living under that pattern. Like, why are you reacting the same way you promised yourself you didn't want to react? And that usually comes from our childhood behaviors, learned behaviors, I would say. We learned in early childhood how to behave, and that shows up in our relationships. And it usually shows up in our relationship with our children because they are the closest relationships we have in life, the most intimate and most natural, and sometimes the most unnerving relationships we have.
Absolutely, Latife. So, who does this whole power struggle happen more with? Is it the mom or is it the dad that the children have this sort of a power struggle? Do they behave very differently with both of them, or is it based on issues rather than who is dealing at that point in time? Will they deal with the same issue differently if it is a mom or a dad?
So it generally happens with both parents at different points. Generally, women tend to be more, they want to fix things for their children. They want there not to be a lot of issues. They want everything to be perfect. They want their child to live sort of a, how do you say, like a life with no obstacles, right? We want to remove all the obstacles for our children. We don't want to see them suffer. And then dads, and this is obviously like a generalization, I'm not saying, they tend to be more authoritative. They tend to explode a little more, and they tend to feel like, oh, you need to listen and you need to grow up and you need to be stronger to face the world. So I think the power struggle shows up for both parents, like dads and moms. I just think that we approach them differently, and then the pain and the sort of spiral is a little bit different in how that shows up for the adult in the room.
Absolutely. But is it that moms react much more strongly than the dad will react for the same thing? Is it true? And if it is, then why is it so?
I honestly don't think that there can be a generalization saying like moms react strongly versus that. I think different things trigger different people because our patterns are learned, like I told you before, so in our childhood. So if as a little boy you were taught to be like really, really good in school and to have always good grades, and your child is suddenly not doing great in school, that can show up for the dad, right? Because he's saying, okay, but you're supposed to do this kind of work. You're supposed to be a good student. You're supposed to excel in school. You're supposed to get good grades, and you're not doing that. And I'm failing as a parent because I'm not pushing you to achieve that. And then for moms, it can be a whole different pattern that they learned while growing up. It can be something like, you have to be good always. You have to please people. You have to learn how to behave in social situations. You have to act a certain way. And when they see their kid maybe having a meltdown in the park, and they're like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. My kid is the one yelling and screaming and not listening to me. And this is showing up for me because we're supposed to be good and well behaved and not create drama and not create a scene. And your child is always supposed to be listening to you. And then the mom sort of spirals into that sense of this is embarrassing. I'm failing. And that's when the reaction really appears. So it's really not that it appears more for moms or more for dads. I think it appears differently depending on the way that we were raised and depending on the values that we were taught on how to be parents or how to react in certain scenarios. And then not really understanding that our kids are who our kids are and really connecting to the kid at the present moment. And that I think is very important. It's a lesson that every parent, every person should really learn. We need to be able to attune to the kid that we have in the present and not to the kid that we think we should have.
Absolutely, absolutely not the kid that we should have. But to talk about, a child defines that can be used as usable behavioral information. Now, how does one at the same time looking at the child's defiance also look at the information that it can give you about the child and about his or her defiance? How should one look at this whole concept?
So let me give you an example. I think it's easier. So when our child is at the park, for example, and they don't want to leave the park because they want to continue playing. And you can interpret that as my child is not listening to me, they don't respect my authority, they are being defiant, they are not being good or well behaved. But if you see it from the child's perspective, the child is just having fun, right? They are at the park. And when you're having fun, even us as adults, like when you're having fun, do you want to leave? Do you want to suddenly pick up and leave? They don't understand the concept of time, of dinner time, of it's getting late or homework. They just understand right here, right now, in the present moment, I'm having fun. So I don't understand why mommy is saying that we have, or why mommy or daddy is saying that I have to pick up and leave right this moment. So it really helps to understand that for them, the right here, right now is very important. They don't understand all the chores and all the things that have to happen afterwards. So something that really works well is understanding that transitions for kids sometimes can be hard, and easing them into those transitions, like saying, okay, we're going to play 5 more minutes, and in 5 minutes, we're going to leave, and keeping that boundary steady and not giving in the next time, oh, mommy, no, 5 more minutes, or five more, and five more. And then that keeps extending, extending, extending. And then by the time the parent actually leaves, she's already upset or exasperated because she's already extended her deadline for another 20 minutes, but really saying, I'm going to let you play for 5 more minutes and then we leave. And then at that 5 minute mark, you really help them get up and say, okay, we have to leave now because XYZ, and really giving them that time to understand that it's the transition. It's not defiance. For them, it's just, I'm having fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, whatever the situation, a lot of women, mothers can start feeling guilt and all the bad situation, and all the fight can lead to some sort of a shame and all. So, how do they deal with this? Whatever the situation, the child has to grow. They will learn. You will learn. But what about the feeling? How do you learn from that? How do you grow out of that feeling?
I think the first thing is approaching it with grace. You have to give yourself grace and you have to give yourself compassion, and you have to understand that it's not about being perfect 100% of the time. There's no expectation that you are never going to make a mistake or that you are never going to fail. And I think us as adults and as parents, we have really put this whole burden on ourselves to do things always perfect, always the same, but really understanding, first of all, you have to give yourself that grace and that understanding that you're not going to be perfect. And then the second strategy that I really recommend for a lot of parents is repair. Maybe going to your child after losing your temper or yelling or acting in a way you're not comfortable acting, and saying, you know what, mommy didn't handle that the best way, and she doesn't really like, yelling. So I next time that we're leaving the park, why don't we do it differently? How can we do it together? Let's come up with ways. And really understanding that repairing that relationship really helps ease that guilt and that shame, because you're understanding that you're giving yourself grace and you're also accepting your humanity in it, but you're also building that relationship with your child, and you're also modeling repair for your child, because you're teaching them that they don't always have to be perfect, but they do have to be accountable for how they react. So it's like you're entitled to your emotions, but you're not entitled to be disrespectful in those emotions, or you're not entitled to be hurtful or endangering with those emotions. And I think is what's important when dealing with that shame or that guilt or that spiral.
Absolutely. What can parents learn from your signature program, Breaking the Power Struggle?
So, what I help parents really navigate is getting to the core root of the issue. Like, why are they reacting the way they do? When was this developed? How do we really understand that pattern? And then how does that pattern showing up for them in different aspects of their relationship with their children, and really breaking away from that pattern. And it's not always, like I said, it's not about being perfect 100% of the time. It's not a matter of saying, I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to yell at my kid again, because that is unattainable goal. We're not striving for perfection here, but it's really understanding, okay, I usually yell because this is how I feel. So I can take a moment to pause and really break that cycle and really step away from that and build a connection with my kid that extends beyond childhood and walks right into adulthood. Because what I tell parents that I work with, and what's really the driver of all of this, is that your children one day are going to sit across a room and talk about the way they were raised and talk about you as a parent. And you want to make sure that that relationship is safeguarded and that you are a safe space for your child in any form, and that your love is never feels conditional.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is so much to learn about all this from you, Latife, and I'm sure a lot of parents would want to connect with you, learn more from you, learn from your program, be a part of it. What's the best way for them to do so?
So they can visit my website. It's www.livinginprogress.com. I have a free parent pattern quiz that they can take there. It's they can also book a free 45-minute diagnostic session where we try to uncover what is showing up and how that is showing up. Or they can also follow me on social media at livingin_progress.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining
Thank,
us.
thank you so much, KAJ. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day.